Good morning. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Paul Gogan, Doug Wilkins, Zahir Bayat, and Peter Reed, and our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Nicole Ivanov. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the City of Toronto's YouTube planning channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will be automatically muted upon entry, and when your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions to the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out in the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or oppose the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will then be taken into committee for decision. Nicole, are there any minutes?
Through the chair, before we begin, just for the public record, we want to state that this hearing is being held to hear the applications from the March 20th, 2024 Panel B hearing that were unable to be heard at that time due to the technical difficulties experienced with the WebEx platform. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, there are minutes that have been confirmed. The March 27th, 2024 minutes have been confirmed and are ready for adoption this morning.
Great. Could I get a motion from someone? Mr. Reid?
Chair, motion to adopt.
Seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? Minutes are adopted. Are there any declarations of interest from staff or panel today?
No.
Seeing none. Nicole, are there any deferral requests?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I see no deferral requests for this agenda today.
And no files to be closed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are no files to be closed.
Great. Thanks very much. Okay. We'll proceed then with item number 1. This is 69 COXWELL Avenue. The purpose of the application is to construct a new 6-story apartment building with a rear ground floor deck, side access stairs, front and rear 5th-story Juliet balconies, front and rear 6-story balconies, as well as side and rear basement walkouts. There will be a total of 10 units on the lot. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. A revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received April the 3rd, 2024. Decision number A958/14TUI affecting the subject property, and planning rationale from the agent. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry, from Community Planning, and from Transportation Services. There is correspondence in opposition from 1941, 1943, 1951 Dundas Street East, 63 Coxwell, 27 Coxwell, Thomas Tin Kai Young, no address submitted. 2A and 10 Ashland Avenue, 1935 Dundas Street East, 14 and 22 Ashland Avenue, 44 Coxwell Avenue, and a 15 signature petition in opposition signed by owner occupants of Coxwell, Ashland, and Dundas Street East.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have registered speakers in opposition to this item, and we have the agent here in person. And I do note that there were revised plans submitted on April 3rd. If the agent can just briefly outline what, if any, changes were made to those plans.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. If we could have your name and address, please. Is your mic on?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's better.
Jeffrey Moot, Principal Moot Architect, 139 Carlaw Avenue, Toronto. Agent acting on behalf of the owners.
Great, thanks very much. As pointed out, you've submitted some revised plans. As part of your presentation, I wonder if you could share with the panel what has changed.
Just minor clarifications, no changes. So based on, we did make it all the way into committee a couple of weeks back, and so there were some questions raised. And so there were some notes added to the site plan just about accessibility on the south side of the building, accessibility or barrier-free access to the building. So these are things that typically would have been detailed sort of down the road as part of a permit submission, but we thought, you know, we should add them at this point just for clarification purposes. So the
Great.
building itself remains.
Perfect. Then if you can just take us through your application, please.
69 Coxwell Avenue is a vacant lot located along a major street. We are proposing to construct a 6-story mid-rise building containing 10 purpose-built rental units. We have submitted a slideshow rationale which addresses sort of each of the individual variances in detail, as well as some supplemental info at the end of the slideshow. I trust those items were helpful as part of the review process. There it is there. Thank you. I'm hoping to now speak at a slightly higher level. Purpose-built rental housing located along major streets supported by public transportation and bike lane options. These are all concepts which describe the foundation of our proposal and that are wholeheartedly supported in the current version of the official plan, Healthy Neighborhoods. What's less clear-cut in the OP currently is the same sort of open arms level of acceptance of our small-scale mid-rise apartment typology. Our belief, however, is that the OP does support opportunities for increased height and density, such as ours, along major streets when considered on an individual basis. For example, Chapter 4 states lots fronting onto a major street are distinguishable from those located in the interior of the neighborhood due to characteristics such as better access to public transit, adjacency to developments with varying heights, massing, and scale. In those neighborhoods, such factors may be taken into account in a consideration of a more intense form of development. And also, Chapter 5 states that variances to a zoning bylaw to grant a height and/or density increase for a particular project can be passed that is greater than the zoning bylaw would otherwise permit in return for community benefits, such as, among others, purpose-built rental housing. Meanwhile, the direct support for mid-rise buildings in neighborhoods comes from the more recent Expanding Housing Options in Neighborhoods Major Streets study, which I believe that we are all familiar with. The EHON Major Streets study is in the final stages of approval by council, is underwritten by the chief city planner, and is recommending acceptance of 6-story mid-rise apartment buildings, up to 30 units, along major streets as of right. Quote from the study, allowing a broader variety of built form, such as townhouses and small-scale apartment buildings, along major streets is generally consistent with the official plan. Major streets provide opportunities for additional density along the boundaries of these neighborhoods. We believe that our proposal has combined the merits of both the current OP as well as the updated Major Streets study. We did receive a staff report from community planning suggesting refusal of our application. The final sentence of the report states, I quote, "The proposed variances do not fit in with the city's long-term goal or vision and do not respect and reinforce the neighborhood character." Now, on the one hand, I agree that our proposal does indeed stand approximately 2 meters taller than the existing stacked townhouse development. That's sort of kitty corner to us as an example of prevailing character. And that's shown on slide number 8, if we do have that. However, our overall density and lot coverage is comparable. On the other hand, our proposal aligns itself almost exactly with the EHON Major Street study, which proves that we do fit the long-term vision of our city. And that is the most up-to-date information that we have to weigh it against, the EHON study. It had been suggested that we wait until the Major Street study is formally adopted by council prior to seeking approval here today, which we strongly considered, though we struggle to answer this one question. How could a building typology such as ours be deemed not appropriate now by planning, but the very same building typology will be read as appropriate in 6 or 12 months from now when the amendments are formally adopted by council? We know it's appropriate now. We know this because of the years of research and consultation that have gone into updating the OP and bylaw documents as part of the EHON study. I think this part needs to be made crystal clear, I think, to everybody in this room and perhaps especially to the opposition in the neighborhood. I do understand that change can be difficult and perhaps even scary, but 6 stories along major streets in neighborhoods is happening. It's only a question of timing. The EHON study has resulted in amendments to the OP and bylaw, awaiting final sign-off from council. I will quickly finish on this. We are seeking your support today as we transition to prioritizing much-needed purpose-built rental programming in mid-rise buildings in our neighborhoods. Having these units online even 10 or 12 months sooner serves to benefit us all. We are talking about providing real rental housing for real members of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Panel, any questions before we go to speakers? No thanks? Okay. First speaker? Is there someone in the audience? No, it's all online.
Glenn, you've been unmuted.
Oh, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to this item. I did speak at the earlier meeting, but I want to respond to some of the points that were raised by the developer. So I am disappointed that after hearing...
Sorry for interrupting, sir. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Oh, my apologies. Glenn Gustafson, 1933 Dundas Street East.
Great. Go ahead.
So I am a little disappointed that after hearing the concerns from the people who will live next to this finished product, the developer hasn't actually proposed any changes. Instead, they do acknowledge the restrictions of the site, but try to justify squeezing this in just based on a report that we haven't seen or hasn't been approved by City Council. And just like there are a few things that came up in the slide presentation. So around the parking spaces, So like Transportation Services says that there is place for temporary guest parking, but the fact of it is that there's no place for permanent parking on Dundas and Ashland. Cars are backed bumper to bumper. And they note parking on the other side of Coxwell, which is actually a different parking permit area and wouldn't be allowed. And the parking on Coxwell itself has no stopping between 4 and 6 p.m. and 1 hour parking between 9 and 4 Monday to Friday and 8 to 6 Saturday, which means that residents really can't park on Coxwell for any length of time, any day of the week. The bike storage issue, as a cyclist myself, I find this very concerning. There's note that there was space provided in individual units, but I took a look at the revised plans. I couldn't actually see it. And what it really kind of says is that residents will have to sort of figure out a design flaw on their own. And the bike parking that's shown outside, which is only, I guess, a couple of bike rings, is in the same place that they're proposing one of the locations for garbage. The waste bins, and that's on page 16, rather than having them concentrated, there will be one set that'll be in the front, which will probably be used until the residents get sick of people dumping garbage when they're waiting for the bus stop. Waste storage, where the bikes are going to be, and then waste storage at the back. I can entirely see that all of that waste is eventually going to migrate to one place in an open area. That there isn't going to be a self-contained garbage area. And finally, the developer points to the 4-story that's kitty corner. That development was widely supported in the neighborhood because the developer took a lot of care to make sure that it blended with the neighborhood, that the parking issues were addressed, the garbage issues were addressed, and that it fit with surrounding residences. And all the examples on pages 6 and 7 work for the building residents and for the community. So, like this proposed development just doesn't work. And I really urge the committee to follow the comments from planning and reject this application. And I ask the developer just to come back with something that fits with the neighborhood and works for the future residents, so that these issues that have been identified by my neighbors and myself are resolved. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Okay. Next speaker, please.
Paul, you've been unmuted.
Hello, my name is Paul Grant. I'm at 1939 Dundas Street East. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right. Basically, Glenn has mentioned many of the objections that I already have. I would like to just say a few things. The size and density of this 6-story, 10-unit building on a single-family size lot does not sit well with existing neighborhood housing. The proposed oversized building exceeds height, mass, and appearance of what was once a simple 2-story home prior to being demolished. The subject building is located 6 houses south of the southeast intersection of Dundas Street East and Coxwell. My backyard is just 4 houses away from this proposed building. With a building height of 6 stories, this building would cast a large afternoon shadow over my backyard and garden in the late summer afternoons. This is a shadowing impact that I strongly object to. My other complaint, my third complaint, goes along with what Glenn has said. Currently, we don't have enough street parking spots for the permit holders in the neighborhood already. It is quite common for me to wait in my car for over an hour for a parking spot to come free. Please note that it's common for the residents on Coxwell to also park on my section of Dundas because they don't have permit parking on Coxwell. So as a result, if we have 10 more units with no parking provisions built into the plan, that means potentially 10 more cars trying to find a spot while I'm waiting in my car for an hour for a spot. So in addition, I strongly object to the number of units of this proposed project. I'm hoping that this developer can scale it back to 3 stories, reduce the number of units, and fit in with the neighborhood. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Nope. We'll take our next speaker, please.
Through the chair, we've tried to contact the speaker multiple times and cannot locate Robert Bradley Combs of 14 Ashland Avenue.
Thanks, and we'll just move on. That's the end of the speakers. Okay, thank you, Eric. Mr. Moot, back to you.
Thank you to our neighbors, Glenn and Paul, who took the time to provide their questions and critiques of the project. The key areas of concern appears to be the following: the parking allowance, garbage storage, and sun shadowing. I'll try to touch on those quickly. Firstly, regarding the parking concerns, the staff report has confirmed that Transportation Services is satisfied that vehicular parking would not be required on the site. We hope to create a rental building which attracts and supports TTC riders and bicycle riders. Slide number 7 shows the location of the proposed exterior bike parking, and if interested, slide number 23 shows the basic sort of style of bicycle parking being proposed. Transportation has requested that we do include a few additional bicycle spots as a condition of their approval, and we will absolutely work with them to find an acceptable solution. The second point, garbage storage. Proposed garbage storage is exterior only. That's correct. We just could not give up a potential rental unit in the basement in order to store garbage internally. We have identified the 3 proposed smaller garbage locations on slide number 18 of the slideshow. Front, side, and rear locations, they're approximately 1.5 meters squared each. We find that smaller storage areas tied more directly to the individual units. It fosters a greater responsibility for ensuring a tidy space, more so than, say, an anonymous sort of oversized single collection area where people just sort of drop and run. And slide number 24 shows the basic design direction for those areas. And finally, the majority of the additional sun shadowing will land across Dundas towards the police station to the north. Unfortunately, of course, there will be a reduction in daylight as compared to what is enjoyed today, as it's currently a fully empty lot. This one's important. Perhaps if we could pull up slide number 22. You have it there. Thank you. It shows the minimal difference between what would be an as-of-right 4-story building versus our proposed 6-story building. You'll see in that slide that the difference is actually very minimal between the 2 proposals. So that represents 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. On April 10th, as an example there. I trust I've covered all of the issues. Thank you.
Great. Panel, any questions of the agent? Zahir.
Thank you, Chair. When you made your presentation earlier, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you referenced a recommendation, or it wasn't actually a recommendation, but a comment about the EHON study.
Yes.
And I was just looking at it, and I think it's on page 69 of the study. There's recommendations and suggestions and so on. There's a paragraph that says there was a suggestion for a regulated 400-meter deep transition zone between avenues and neighborhoods. This zone should allow for 6-story height and buffer between the higher density avenues and lower density inner neighborhoods. Avenues do not have as of right permission for multiplex housing currently, requiring extra approvals. Minor variances in rezoning. Is that what you were thinking of as you were making the comment?
Specifically, it's the major street portion of that. I don't know exactly which document you have here. But,
the EHON recommendations, a study.
so the latest draft zoning bylaw is the one which would be dated October 2023. And that's the one that outlines the idea of additional density along the major street and then transitioning back to what would be the sort of the existing prevailing neighborhood character. And so what that allows for in the draft bylaw, I'll try to be as clear as I can here. 6-story apartment building up to 30 units. This is along major streets. And they've offered a reduced side yard setback to sort of to complete the street wall. They've offered a eliminating of the FSI calculation. They've offered a 25-meter building depth, which is we're in 24.5 currently. So we would fall within, the 6-story designation, the building depth designation. The FSI has been waived in this case, as we've seen in other multiplex amendments, and a 7.5-meter rear setback in order to transition to the sort of existing residential component. And so those are the major adjustments that.
I understood you correctly. These are recommendations that may not come into force.
So the draft bylaw has been, the bylaw and the OP amendments have been drafted, and we're awaiting final council approval, which has been suggested that it is inevitable. It's just a question of timing and whether there could be some, third-party appeal, which would sort of draw out the process.
But currently.
Correct.
And you're aware of planning. You mentioned planning's recommendation.
That's correct. So we've taken the notes that we've been given with. So this is years of research backing these proposed amendments. And so we've taken that information and we've tried to design a building according to where the direction, we're trying to design with where we're going in mind as opposed to sort of where we've been.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this portion or this section of Coxwell deemed avenue in the OP?
It's not deemed avenue. It's not the avenue study. It's major street.
And it's deemed as?
Yeah, that's correct. It's identified in the mapping, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, panel? Okay, thank you very much. We'll take this into committee. Okay, anyone want to start? Is it here?
Sure, Chair. I'll get it going. In terms of increasing density, particularly along major streets, I see the logic behind it. I see the necessity behind it. However, I think there is this issue of the height of the building currently, and I take to heart the applicant's perspective that things may change in 12 months. But I think that whether it will change or not is not definite. So at this point, I'm more inclined because the height currently is excessive. The 6 stories is excessive, and planning has also indicated that. So I'm inclined not to be supportive of this application at this point, but I'd like to hear from you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Peter?
Sure, Chair. Thanks. Yeah, this is a complicated one for me. I want to support it, but I do agree with Zahir that I think the current policy framework as it stands is pretty clear. The official plan policies around height, and I do agree with the applicant that I think this is where it's going, but I think from a for-test perspective, an OP, looking at the OP, I don't think we're there yet. And I do think that a lot of the constraints of the site and the number of units kind of multiply to create the impacts that the neighbors are concerned about. Like I'm not worried so much about the parking, but in terms of, it just feels like there's maybe a bit too much program on the site, and that's resulting in some of the, the concerns about the rear yard setback. And so, I like Zahir, I can't support this, but perhaps that would change after the bylaw and OPA go through.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll just weigh in. I'd agree with both of you. I'm very sympathetic. I think everyone's very sympathetic to any proposal that's going to be bringing purpose-built rental into existing neighborhoods. That's great. And maybe in the future, this could be brought back, buttressed by the amendments to the OP that you're talking about. But in advance of that. We can't presuppose how council's going to determine what they want to do with this proposal, so it's frankly, it's premature. So I will agree with my colleagues. So I'll look for someone for a motion. So here?
I'll move motion and just to reflect this maybe just a little ahead of its time. With that, having said that, I think I'd like to move a motion to refuse this application.
Great. Motion to refuse, seconded by Mr. Reid. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, sir. All right. We move on to item number 2. 200 St. Clair Avenue West. This is an application to alter the existing 12-story residential building by converting the existing outdoor amenity space on the ground floor to indoor amenity space. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, an OMB decision, two OMB decisions affecting the subject property, presentation materials from the agent received on March 13th, and site-specific bylaws for this particular property. Do we have our agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent, Mr. Bronskill, on the line.
Mr. Bronskill.
Mr. Chair.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Just for the record, David Bronskill, 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, here on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Chair.
Just hang on a sec, David. Panel, do we need a presentation on this one? No, thanks. So here?
Just a quick explanation of what because I'm looking at Google Map, and I was just trying to figure out what exactly was being identified.
Okay.
As space. Nothing too elaborate.
Okay, Mr. Bronskill, maybe just a very brief overview.
For sure. If staff are able to bring up actually the last page of the presentation that we put in, that's a really good view in terms of what's being proposed. This is an application actually being brought by the Condo Corp. It's the at-grade space that you can see behind the red boxes and the red words that say proposed glazing. That's actually existing outdoor amenity space today that I'm going to say to the committee has completely failed in its intent. It's partly covered outdoor space. That's not its problem. It's that it sits on St. Clair, which, as you might imagine, is a busy place. And so it's not well used amenity space because it is outdoors. Those areas there, even though it's covered, are open to the street. And so it's loud. It's a bit dirty. It hasn't worked as an outdoor amenity space. So the application simply would enclose that. That's why there's the proposed glazing there. It could be used for meeting space. It could be used as a party room. It remains as amenity space, which I think is important for the committee. It's about 109.47 square meters that we've shown on the plans. It's contiguous with a bar lounge that's off the elevator lobby, so it's going to be integrated with that space as well. We think it'll be well used. Ultimately, the overall amount of amenity space does not decline. Just the proportion is shifted away from outdoor with a bit more indoor now being provided. The last thing I would say is the Condo Corps, as I noticed, brought this application. These units, they're lovely units. It's a lovely building. They all have balconies, terraces, and outdoor spaces associated with them. So that's why ultimately I think they're also comfortable losing this, frankly, less successful outdoor amenity space because everybody has great outdoor amenity space associated directly with their units, and they look forward to being able to use this indoor amenity space more productively should the committee grant the variances.
Thank you. Zahir, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the puzzles, the indoor-outdoor space, which didn't work.
Yeah.
Or doesn't work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, I think we're fine. Let's take this into committee. Look to someone for a motion. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks to the agent for explaining that. That was a very clear description of the current situation and how this application proposes to remedy this. I see, because there's no net decrease in the amenity space and because there is existing unit-specific outdoor space, I think this makes a lot of sense to make a higher quality amenity space for the building. So I can see no negative impacts. I move approval without condition.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Wilkins. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to the panel.
All right, we move on to item number 3, 81 Hazelton Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition, a partial third-story addition, a rear ground floor terrace, and a rear third-story terrace on the roof of the second story below. Panel has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, and presentation materials from the agent. We have a staff report from Heritage Planning. We have correspondence and support from 9 New Street, 150 Bloor Street West, Unit 501, 100 Hazelton Avenue, 57 Hazelton, 45 Berryman, 47 Berryman, 98 Hazelton, 32 and 53, or 32 Berryman and 53 Hazelton. Correspondence and interest from the ABC Residents Association, from Lorraine Dalcin, no address provided, and 73 Hazelton Avenue. There is correspondence and opposition from 49 Berryman Street, 75 Hazelton Avenue, 76 Hazelton, 79, 76 Hazelton again, 68 Hazelton, and Wendy Bannerman of no address provided.
Through the chair, we do have a number of registered speakers to this item, and we have the agent online. And just a note to the registered speakers, it appears we have some listed for the same address for 79 and 76 Hazelton Avenue. So please, the time allotment is 5 minutes per household. So please organize appropriately who is discussing what. And if you are discussing or presenting on somebody's behalf, please clearly state the address and who you are speaking on behalf of. Thank you.
Okay, do we have the agent?
Jason, you've been unmuted and you can turn on your video.
Good morning, committee. My name is Jason Cuttajar. I live at 39 Braywin Drive in Toronto, Ontario. I designed the alterations at 81 Hazelton, and I will be presenting the variances to you today.
Great, thank you. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Great. If we can just get up the presentation, it should be in the late folder, I believe. Can you go to this? I think that's not the right one. It's April 10th. That's the one. Okay. Yeah, so basically this is a photo of the front of 81 Hazelton. And we're proposing a 2-story rear addition and a partial third-story addition with a roof deck. If we can go to the next page, please. Basically, these are just our project overviews, and what we're doing here is maintaining the heritage of the home by retaining 100% of the original brick facades on both Hazelton and Berryman Street. And then we're going to utilize contemporary design for the rear addition that is clearly distinguishable from the original heritage building. And we've kept the third story significantly back from the back of the property to minimize the impact on the neighbors and on the Berryman streetscape. Next slide, please. We're looking for the approval of 5 minor variances. I believe that you'll find that it satisfies the 4 tests of the Planning Act, consistent with other variances granted in the area, and are in keeping with the existing physical context of the area. Next slide, please. Communications from the city. City Planning Division has not expressed any concern. Heritage Preservation Services has had, they stated no comments on the application. There's no report from community planning, and there are no reports to the C of A from any of the other city departments. Next slide, please. I'll just go through the variance now. So the first variance is our setback of third floor terrace from the side lot lines. And basically all we're doing here is following the outline of the walls below, which do not require any variances. Also, what we're doing is we're just basically mirroring what was done on the 79 Hazelton, and you can see from this diagram that they've gone lot line to lot line as well. We will be providing a 1.5 meter privacy screen to satisfy any privacy concerns between 79 and 81, and that'll go along the south edge there. Next slide, please. Variants 2 and 4 are regarding a building depth. And basically, we're asking for 21.35, and it's the same depth that the existing structure has today. Next slide, please. This is a building depth map, and as you can see, the red lines on either side of the street are 17 meters of depth. And the blue line is what we're asking for today. And as you can see, many, if not all, the properties in Hazleton are built beyond the 17 meters allowable depth, and many are at or exceed the depth being requested today. Next slide, please. Here's a chart showing the past decisions of the C of A for the building for building depth, and you will find that we're about 1 meter below the median and average depth approved. And this chart shows basically all the green ones hatched in green are approvals that exceeded what we're asking for today. Next slide, please. Variance number 3 is regarding main wall height, and we're building to the height of the existing peak so that we can't be seen or disturb the elevation on Hazleton. And you can see what we're asking for is quite minimal. It's just basically that red hatched triangle that we've put in there. And if this were a detached home, we actually wouldn't need a variance here. Our sidewalls actually comply with the zoning regulations for main wall height. But because this is a semi-detached home, sidewalls are not recognized. This is important because the side of the house on Berryman complies with the zoning regulations for main wall height. So we're respecting the massing along Berryman, and there's no impact to number 79, as they have done the same and actually gone back much further. Next question. Next slide, please. Last one is regarding floor space index, and basically we're asking for 1.07, so just a little bit more than the 1.0 that's allowed. The proposed FSI is consistent with renovations that have taken place in the immediate area. As you can see in this chart side here, we are just below the median and average FSI of 1.08, and you can see the green ones are basically ones that exceed what we're asking for today and have been approved. It's also important to note that we're deploying this additional FSI mainly within the attic, and so it's deployed in a way that will not impact neighboring properties or the streetscape. And that concludes my presentation. I would look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Quick thing, there were a number of comments in the letters that we received referring to a 2-story or garage or amenity structure or a garden suite. There appears to be nothing along those lines in your application. Can you just confirm that that's not included at this point?
Yes, it's not included at this point. We're still working through some of the design strategy for that, so we're not applying for that at this time.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, panel? Okay, we have the first speaker.
Through the chair, we've tried to contact the speaker in support, Jordan Cornsfit of 9 New Street, but was unsuccessful.
Okay.
William John Reeves, are you in the audience?
Through the chair, that's the owner, so the owner is just available for questions, so we'll move to the next registered speaker.
Okay.
Noah, you've been unmuted.
My name is Noah Ornstein. I'm speaking on behalf of Tom Phillips, who unfortunately today is in hospital. So the words that I speak are those of Tom Phillips.
Great, thank you.
My name is
Tom
Phillips.
Sorry, Noah. Can I just confirm, we do have others registered for 79 Hazleton as well. Are you speaking for everyone from 79 Hazleton?
No, sir. I'm speaking only on behalf of Tom Phillips. My mother, Rona Ornstein, will speak on her own behalf as the resident of 79 Hazelton.
And Tom Phillips lives where?
Tom Phillips lives across the street from the property at 76 Hazelton.
Okay, we'll just make that change. Thank you. All right, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Tom Phillips. My wife and I live at 76 Hazelton, directly across from and slightly to the north of 81 Hazelton. I would like to thank the committee and Mr. Chow for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thanks to and because of the committee's continuing oversight and high standards, Yorkville is one of the rare neighborhoods in Toronto that has successfully managed to retain its heritage look. I understand and support the applicant's desire to improve 81 Hazelton. I am in favor of development, but it must be appropriate. 81 Hazelton possesses very specific heritage importance because it faces two heritage streets at the same time, Hazelton Avenue and Berryman Street. Sadly, the proposed changes to 81 Hazelton definitely do not retain the heritage look. The very heavy stacked triple chimney looks industrial, not residential. My main concern is the third floor terrace, which will be dominating. It overlooks all the neighbors and Berryman Street itself. It sits on top of the house, the entire width of the lot, all the way from the south to the north, with zero clearance on both sides. On the south, it's right up against its southern neighbor, and on the north, it's right on the street. The very modern third floor glass railing will enable everyone to see everything happening on the terrace at that time. Continuing with the north facade, both windows at the top are definitely not heritage either. The large, bold, angular, geometric-shaped window suggests the brutalism architectural style. The very wide but short horizontal window is straight out of World War II bunker. These stark modern shapes and sizes have their place, of course, just not in this place. For these reasons above, I object to this application. Thank you.
Panel, any questions? Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Through the chair, it appears that we've lost Rona Ornstein. I don't see her online. We can move on to the next speaker.
Okay, and you're going to give her a call, are you?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, you've been unmuted and you may turn on your video.
Good morning.
Morning.
If you could give us your name and address, please.
Michael Penner, 49 Berryman Street.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My property is directly east of 81 Hazelton. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to contribute today. The ABC Association has requested a deferral with respect to the Heritage Board. I support that request. Generally, the plan does not fit the heritage streets of Hazelton and Berryman. The plan is too large and too modern. As you mentioned earlier, there are no current plans for the current dilapidated garage. There were plans in the original application. The property owner clearly intends to increase the size of the garage and build a two-story unit substantially covering a large portion of the lot. Does the overall size, I'm asking, does the overall size of the house have to take into account the expected application for this very large addition to the garage, which will front onto Berryman Street as well? The new structure will have a major impact on Berryman, as this is not a typical laneway unit, as it will have a substantial presence on Berryman Street. So my question to the panel is, he's asking to go 1.07 currently for coverage, but he's then going to have a substantial addition as well to the back of the property. Does that have to be taken into account when you're considering this current application? And then for more complete details of my objections, they're in my March 11th submission, which I'm guessing the panel has had an opportunity to review. Do I have to go through that with you?
It's your call. You have some time left. We have read your submission, so the panel is familiar with your concerns.
Then I don't need to waste your time by having you listen to it once again. So I thank you for the time to raise my objections to the plan. Is it possible to get an answer to my question as to the current application takes it to 1.07 of the lot, but he's clearly going to be building a substantial further structure on the property. Does that get taken into account now?
The panel has no application before us with respect to the rear garage. So all the panel has before it to consider is the application with respect to the principal dwelling.
So will he have to come back to the Committee of Adjustments for this new structure?
It would, yes, if he requires variances for that structure, yes. If he proposes a structure that conforms with the bylaws, no, he wouldn't. Only if he needs variances.
Well, will he need a variance for a garage that'll have a substantial? I believe he's going to make the case, which is why he withdrew his previous submission. He's going to make the case that it's a laneway unit, but this is not a true laneway unit because it's going to have a massive presence on Berryman Street.
Again,
I mean, he's
you know,
cut down
I'm
trees
just,
to the
I don't want to belabor that. I don't want to interrupt you, but since we don't have an application with respect to that, you know, we're unable to comment on what might or might not come forward in the future. So that will have to wait and see whether the applicant is planning to do that or not.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next speaker.
Ying Huan, you've been unmuted.
Good morning.
Ying Huan, are you there? You've been unmuted. Through the chair, this person is speaking in interest. This person might be having audio issues.
Okay. Were we able to contact Ms. Ornstein?
Through the chair, I was able to locate Rona Ornstein. I will be unmuting her.
Okay, thanks.
Rona, you've been unmuted.
Ms. Ornstein.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes.
Good morning. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Yes. Rona Ornstein, Rona and Jerry Ornstein, 79 Hazelton Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
We are immediate neighbors right next door to 81 Hazelton and in fact are attached on the north side. 81 Hazelton Avenue and the surrounding area has been designated a heritage site under bylaw 622-2002. I agree with the ABC's Resident Association request to review the submission with Heritage. In their March 18th letter, Heritage have also indicated that they want to approve the submission prior to issuing a building permit. The property in question, 81 Hazelton Avenue, is a corner lot on Hazelton Avenue and Berryman Avenue, attachment A, presenting a contemporary glass design that has been copied from the backyard of 98 Hazelton Avenue, attachment C. The overall design, as expressed by numerous opposition letters, diminishes the look of this unique heritage area. Based on the attached floor plan, attachment B, submitted the same day prior to the revised plan, the owner of 81 Hazelton is planning a two-phase construction project on the site. The original plan included a main renovation plus a two-story garage suite with a second design that is different from the main house. Knowing that it would be more difficult to get this total project approved in one phase, the revised plan was submitted without updating or modernizing the original garage. The building blocks our sightline onto Berryman, our complete privacy, our light from the east, covering 100% of the property. The submission should have included the garage suite to provide the committee a view of the total project. Should 81 decide not to add the two-car garage, then a single-car garage site plan presented should be added as a condition of the approval so that no changes can be made in the future. With the ongoing communications from 81, to this point, there have been no response regarding opposition of future plans to build this garage suite. The 516 square foot rooftop terrace exceeds the building structure and has an 86 square foot roof overhang, as well as a 0 meter distance to the side and to our property, which is not minor. The terrace fence of 1.5 m does not adequately provide privacy, noise abatement, or ensure safety on both sides, which is not acceptable. Moreover, the terrace is just 0.3 meters from our house. The second floor canopy extension will block our visual sightline from the second floor and completely interfere with our privacy. Why is it there? I believe it is there to extend a future terrace expansion. This overhang should be removed. I do not believe that this overhang has been included in the variance number 425.35 meter numbers. There is a south elevation window drawing mistake on the site plan. The south elevation A7 wall has a large window facing our office window. The second floor plan shows two windows, however. The elevation A7 shows only one window. There needs to be a site plan drawing change to the window square footage and the variance. The main wall height drawing variance number 3 is incorrect. According to the zoning bylaw, the main wall height should be 8.5 meters. 81 is asking for 9.12 meter variance. The mathematics in my written submission, along with attachment F, show that the variance becomes 9.2 meters. The site plan needs to be redrawn as it is beyond the variance requested. Regarding the south elevation, the Ontario Building Code regulates the maximum percentage of unprotected open windows by wall area to be 7% for safety and separation. The submitted ratio is 16.7%. In case of fire, due to enclosed courtyard design, this becomes a narrow 3-story shaft. The fire can spread to every window inside the shaft and continue along to the other 6 attached row houses. The other serious 81 property concerns, which are with the stormwater discharge, new addition foundation construction angle of repose, and 2-story room extension jog have already been submitted in writing, and we are asking that these issues be addressed prior to moving ahead with approvals and subsequent construction. It appears that the building design exceeds the submitted variance submissions 1, 2, 3, and 4, along with being now compliant with Heritage Conservation District look. We believe that there has not been full disclosure regarding the addition of the 2-car garage suite. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Okay. All right. Do we have that final speaker?
Ying Huan, you've been unmuted.
Ying Huan, good morning.
Yingwan of 28A Hazelton Avenue, are you on the line?
Ying Huan, you've been unmuted. Through the chair, we cannot locate the speaker.
Okay, thanks. We will move on and go back to the agent. Mr. Kujar.
Okay, yeah, so there's a lot there, but I'll try and just go through responding to some of the comments. There was concern about the size of the terrace. I can just say that we don't have any variances for the size of the terrace or the location on the second floor. There was concern about the glass railing and privacy issues on the street. We're using glass there as it's much lighter looking, and we're trying to control the massing on that size, and I think it's more appropriate for our contemporary design for sure. Lots of concern about the garden suite. That will be dealt with separately should they decide to go ahead with that. We just didn't feel like it was a good time to bring it to commit at this time, as we're still working through some of the design stuff there. So concern about the modern design, that will be dealt with Heritage. They've already stated that they don't have any concerns. And I can say that on Berryman, there are many modern design buildings, and that Heritage often likes to see contemporary additions so that people can distinguish what's new and what's heritage. There's concern about unprotected openings and the light well. It's from 79. That kind of stuff will be dealt with the building permit stage for sure. Number 79 was concerned about the 1.5 meter high privacy not being enough, but that is typical of what planning requests, and I think indicative of their silence on this. I think they're satisfied with 1.5 meters, but I can't speak to that. And I can just say that the ABC has withdrawn their request for deferral. They've been in discussion with the homeowner, and I think they're satisfied with the proposal now. I think that was most of it, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. Did we get something from ABC residents withdrawing their request? I didn't see it in my material. Anybody see it?
I think it was submitted late, so I think they couldn't put it in. But
okay, we don't have. I'm sorry. No, we can't take you right now. Okay, panel. Any questions? No, thanks. Okay. We have no questions, sir. We'll take this into committee for a decision. Anyone want to start us off? Oh, Zahir?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start on the conversation. I think the comment that the agent just made, last couple of comments, it's something akin to what I was thinking about, is that the heritage home, and there are lots of heritage structures in Toronto, that have been added to by something more modern, something newer, something that allows it to be more functional. And I think this is what's happening in this particular property. I noted on Berryman, there are a number of new homes, a number of structures that are not heritage. Presumably, they may have been heritage homes there previously, but these are all newer homes. So that change is happening. I find the design itself is actually quite interesting, blending the new and the old with the glass, allowing for some, I think, visual effect, that not taking away from the heritage structure. Just in reference to the comments that were made by number 79, with regard to the rooftop terrace, I note from the photographs that were in the applicant's presentation that 79 has an equally large rooftop deck on the third floor. and it appears that they don't have any privacy screening as such. So I don't see any concern with that. The depth of the house, the proposed structure is not anywhere beyond the existing extension on the first floor. So I don't see a problem with this particular design and this particular application. A couple of comments have made the reference to the laneway suite. There's nothing in the variances before us that has anything to do with a garage or ancillary structure of any kind. So this is an application that I think I can quite well support.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I agree with Zahir's comments. I think particularly around the heritage and the kind of more modern structure and how they interplay, I think this is an attractive design. I did have some concerns about the length of the house, but seeing that it's basically mimicking the massing of 79 in addition to the roof deck. So I think it works particularly because of where it is on the block, on the north end of the block, and so any shadow that will come to that, it doesn't end up in someone else's backyard. I think that has a lessening impact. So yeah, I think it's a very well-considered application. I support it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would just, sure, yeah, I would just say that a lot of the concerns expressed by the neighbors have to do with the heritage aspects of the plan. And regardless of whether we approve this or not, there's still that process to go. And I think there's going to be input from the Heritage Department to ensure that the project doesn't get too out of bounds in terms of the heritage impacts. And I think that's some comfort to me in also supporting the application.
Okay. All right. Look to someone for a motion. Is it here?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I'd like to move motion to approve this application. There is a heritage condition attached, but nothing other than that.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Okay. Item number 4, 66 Edgewood Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 2-story garden suite with a front basement walkout, a front ground floor entrance with external stairs, and north and south side 2nd-story green roof decks in the rear yard of the lot. The existing 2-story detached main dwelling on the lot will remain unaltered. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the owners received March 5th, 2024, previous decision number affecting the subject property, an arborist report received January 20th, 2024, and presentation materials from the agent. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry, 2 staff reports from Urban Forestry. We have correspondence and support from 66 Edgewood Avenue, Unit 4, and a total of 25 form letters in support from owners occupants of Edgewood Avenue, and all on Edgewood Avenue. We have correspondence in opposition from 84 Robbins Avenue, 9486 Robbins Avenue, 6260 Edgewood Avenue, 96 Robbins Avenue, and 68 and 125 Edgewood Avenue.
Through the chair, we have many registered speakers for this item, majority in opposition, 1 listed in interest, and we do have the agent on the line.
Great. Mr. Race.
Craig, you've been unmuted.
Mr. Race?
Yes, sir. Craig Race, 282 Richmond Street East, speaking on behalf of the owner for the application.
Great. We have a number of speakers wishing to provide comments on this application, so we'll need a presentation, please.
Yes, sir. If staff could please pull up our supporting material. One quick correction I would like to make. The description of the project notes green roof decks. There are no roof decks proposed here, only green roofs. That is a mistake. The application before you, we could please go back to the supporting material, is for a single-family garden suite. There's one variance being sought for lot coverage, and the suite is intended to be occupied by the owner of the property who currently lives in the main house, which is a multi-dwelling unit. The family needs space for expansion, and the rear yard is the optimal place for an additional unit. Next page, please. The site is located in the East End, north of Queen Street, in between Leslieville and the Beach neighborhood. Its surrounding is a diverse array of typologies, including old and new infill apartment buildings and townhouses, as well as detached and attached homes. It's important to note the unusually large lot size of this property. The property dimensions are 50 feet by 253 feet, making it one of the largest detached homes in the area, possibly the largest I've ever worked on in this part of Toronto. Next page, please. The rear yard currently contains a paved parking area, and about 100 feet of depth is dedicated to soft landscaping. Please note the application does not require the removal of any trees, and both forestry and ravine and natural feature protection have reviewed the application. They're in support. Next page, please. The minor variance required, as I mentioned, is for lot coverage. We are proposing a 1,600 square foot footprint here, which, given the lot size, we believe is supportable. There are a few elements of site coverage in the bylaws. One is rear coverage, which requires a maximum of 40% of the lot not be covered by a garden suite. We are only at 20% of the lot, so less than half of the requirement. In addition, there's a total lot coverage requirement of 20%. We are proposing 8.6% of total lot coverage here, so well under half. So although we do require a minor variance for the footprint of the suite, the other two components of coverage, we are substantially below. Next page, please. Now, this site is eligible for a garden suite. This is an exercise which we shared with the neighbors. The pink footprints show as bright footprints for where garden suites could go that would have a substantially greater impact on adjacent properties. We intentionally positioned this project in the middle of the site to ensure that it has maximum distance from any surrounding houses and is optimally placed for privacy and preservation of trees. Next page, please. There are angular plane requirements, as with all garden suites, which we have chosen to abide by, hence why the second story is stepped in. This all fits within required side yard setbacks and angular planes and overall height for the project. Next page, please. The area is within a conservation boundary. As I mentioned, it has been reviewed by the Conservation Authority and we're in compliance with their requirements. There's only one tree protection zone that the corner of the project dips into. Our arborist report and urban forestry have reviewed the application and deem it to be acceptable. There will be no negative effects on trees and no removals required. Next page, please. The home is intended to be family-oriented. It has 4 bedrooms, and the living spaces are located on the lower level with a strong connection to the rear of the lot, where there's the most green space and privacy. Windows were minimized on the sides to prevent overlook onto adjacent properties, and there are almost no windows on the second story facing the side lot lines, except for clerestory windows that are above head height. And as I mentioned, the flat roof areas adjacent to the second floor will not be accessible. Those are for green roofs only, not for human occupancy. Next page, please. As you mentioned, there are a few letters of objection and many letters of support. Prior to the hearing, we did hold Zoom meetings with some adjacent homeowners who have concerns. We will continue to consider their requests as additional detail is added to the design prior to permit issuance. Next page, please. In conclusion, I want to note that the official plan amendment that brought garden suites into effect includes very specific requirements for when minor variances should be granted for increased footprints. Specifically, it states the application should maintain privacy. It should maintain the majority of the rear yard as soft landscaping. It should preserve existing trees, and the garden suite should be smaller than the main house. This application satisfies all of these requirements. It's been reviewed by planning staff as well as other departments during pre-circulation and has been confirmed as supportable by all. This unusually large site holds great opportunity. Our client wants to continue living on their property so their family can maintain roots in the area and build an infill home in this vibrant, diverse neighborhood. The Garden Suite policy, along with other EHON efforts being pursued by council, makes it possible for families to continue investment in their neighborhoods. And this situation is perfect for being respectful of the zoning bylaws where necessary, but strategically and carefully going beyond them where our context is allowing us to create this new, what I think is an exceptional home in this established community. This property and every other property.
Mr. Race, I'm sorry, you've gone quite a bit over your time. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
This is a large site and we think it's suitable for this application. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A couple of questions first. So I'm just confirming, you just have the one variance, there's no length or width variance with respect to this proposal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had mentioned at the outset the purpose of the application is incorrect. So there are two green roofs, but they're not decks. So we just strike the word decks?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Great, thanks. Panel, any questions before we go to speakers? Okay, let's go to the first speaker.
Through the chair, the speaker in opposition from 86 Robbins Avenue has informed me that they will not be participating.
Okay.
Bob, you've been unmuted.
Good morning, sir.
Bob McGowan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Good morning. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Robert McGowan, although you can call me Bob. I live at number 60 Edgewood Avenue, 2 doors away from the premises in question. I have some issues regarding the fact that the building, although I understand the city needs to increase density, the fact that it's a 2-story building is a little, very disconcerting for both me and my wife. If it was a 1-story building, I would not have any opposition. If it fell within the 60 square meters, I would be fine with it. But I am not at the size that it is. From my backyard, it will be quite visible. The second issue, you're going to be building that on an area where at number 62 next door, there was actually a dock. The dock itself was for Small's Pond. What you have is a very high water table in the area, and I would have concern that there might be issues interrupting the whole thing with the water table and might cause basement flooding for some of the neighbors, notably the folks on Robbins, but as well myself and the gentleman at number 62. The third issue I have is that although this is stated to be a residential place, the family home, et cetera, the economics of putting in an Airbnb are so very, very good that this could very well become an Airbnb, which would cause issues like parking, noise, non-compliance with other various bylaws. There was an awful lot of that when my wife and I first moved into the neighborhood in 1993. There were some very serious party people there who seemed to think that the neighbors had no rights to silence after 11 o'clock. If it was a 1-story building, if it fell within the 60 meters, fine by me. I find it is too large, and I think there are issues associated with the building that will cause issues for the neighborhood. Anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and that's about all I've got to say. I'll try and keep it brief. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Maybe we could go on to the next speaker.
And you've been unmuted. You may turn on your video. And Sandy, are you there?
Yeah, I am here, but it was just to listen in.
Okay.
It was an option. I was listening into YouTube, and then someone sent me the WebEx, so I just started listening in there.
Okay, well, we can hear you fine. Do you want to begin?
No, I really just want to hear the proceedings. I wasn't really here. I'd prefer to remain neutral just because there is so much controversy around it at this point, and I don't have enough details. I've only seen the plan, so I was listening in to hear more today.
Okay, thank you. If we can go on to the next speaker.
Tom, you've been unmuted, and you may turn on your video.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Tom Oldham, and I live at 94 Robbins Avenue. Our property is attached directly on the west side of the applicant's property, and we share roughly 40 feet of fence line. I just want to start off by thanking you for your time and for hearing our concerns as a neighborhood. My family's lived in the Beaches, East York area for 15 years, and we're strongly embedded into this community, and we appreciate the respect and friendships formed with our lovely neighbors. I just want to start by mentioning that my wife and I and our neighbors as well, I think we all share the agreement that we're not in opposition to the creation of garden suites that follow the carefully constructed guidelines that the City of Toronto has created. But the building the applicant is proposing is a major divergence from these guidelines, and in our opinion is not a minor variance. From the reading we've done, we understand that this building variance cannot be considered minor for two reasons. Firstly, it's a major dimensional shift from the guidelines. The proposed building will be just under 2.5 times what the City of Toronto has deemed acceptable. The term garden suite, in my opinion, seems ill-fitting for a 150-meter squared family home with 4 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. We appreciate the green roof, but even if the committee does not include this green space as square footage, the applicant's building will still be 90% bigger than the guidelines allowed. The giant backyard building will be much larger than most primary dwellings in our neighborhood. The second reason is that it is too important in relation to the community to be considered minor. The density and layout of our neighborhood have been thoughtfully designed to provide each home with private outdoor space, a feature that greatly contributes to the quality of life here. The oversized nature of this proposed home would undoubtedly impose upon this privacy, affecting neighboring properties and diminishing the sense of retreat that our backyards provide. We'd like to also note that there were many submissions of support for this build, but all of the neighbors that will be directly affected by this oversized structure have sent in their letters of opposition, as noted in their addresses. Lastly, if the city decides to pass this major divergence from its guidelines, I believe it's setting a precedent for other large-scale family homes to be built in our traditional historic neighborhoods and throughout the city. I believe that experts and city planners have thoughtfully created these guidelines to protect the built environment and address the city's housing crisis. And I trust that you will enforce your own carefully constructed rules. Again, this is plainly not a minor variance. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take the next speaker.
Through the chair, I've tried to locate the speaker from 62 Edgewood Avenue and was unsuccessful.
Okay. And we have 2 more registered.
Glenn, you've been unmuted.
Okay, thanks very much. My name is Glenn Miller. I live at 70 Edgewood Avenue. My concerns are just, have already been expressed, and so I really don't have much more to add. Obvious concern for me is just the sheer size and magnitude of the proposed building. I just believe it's not consistent with what a garden suite is intended for. I just feel it's just too big of a footprint, and I do have some major concerns that if something like this were to be passed through that it would in fact set a precedence for future projects of this nature. So, as I mentioned, I don't really have anything new to add to that, so I'll keep it short. But thanks for your time.
Thank you. And our last speaker.
Andrea, you've been unmuted.
Oh, hi. My name is Andrea. I live at 125 Edgewood. I really don't have anything further to add. I would say that whatever Tom Oldman and the other people who had their questions, they pretty well covered off my concerns. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll take the agent back, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, you have 5 minutes, sir, to respond.
Certainly. So one of the points that was made was with respect to height. I do remind there is no height variance required here. We comply with both overall height and the angular plane requirements of the Garden Suite bylaw. There was mention of an Airbnb. This is not intended to be an Airbnb. This is intended to be occupied by the owner of the property who currently lives in one of the units in the main house. There was note of separation from the neighbor to the rear. The zoning bylaw for a garden suite only requires a 3.15 meter separation from the rear lot line, or about 10 feet. We are proposing a 15 or 14.5 meter separation, which is 47 feet from the rear lot line. So we just did specifically try to locate the building in a way that would have minimal impact on the adjacent houses. And we're no closer than 50 feet to any surrounding house. So the separation was one we did try to craft to be appropriate. And the big one, I think, comes down to footprint. The zoning bylaws for a garden suite allow for a 1,290 square foot garden suite to go on this site. We're asking for 1,600 square feet. Statistically, it does look like our footprint is over the bylaw requirement, but as I mentioned, there are additional provisions in the bylaws for how much of a site a project can take up. The rear yard coverage of 40%, we are less than half of that. Total lot coverage of 20%, we're much less than half of that. In terms of establishing a precedent, it would not be possible for any neighbor to build a project like this without triggering those additional variances, which I think speaks to how large this lot is and why we believe it's appropriate for this project. A 50-foot by 250-foot lot simply does not exist in most places in the city. And this is a case where we believe we've respected the requirements of the official plan in how they allow for additional footprint for a garden suite. And we hope that the neighbors will see when it's constructed that the additional privacy provisions we've embedded in the design will ensure that we've optimized respect for adjacent land and ensure that this is intended for enjoyment on the subject property, not for impact on the adjacent. Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thanks. Panel, any questions of the agent? Is it here?
Thank you, Chair, and to the agent, just a quick question. You've only got one variance being requested, but I'm just wondering, what is perhaps you may not have this, but what is the square footage of the current main home, and then compared to the proposed, the FSI of the proposed structure?
I can pull that up. I can tell you immediately that we are smaller than the main house, as is required by the bylaws.
Okay. Because I think one of the big considerations from people in opposition is suggestive of massing. You are requesting lot coverage that is quite substantial. So I'm trying to get a sense of the comparison between the main structure and your proposed structure. Thank you.
Mr. Race, are you able to pull that number up for us?
I'm pulling it up as we speak, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
So the main home is 288.8 square meters, which is 3,109 square feet. And we are proposing 1,600 square feet.
So
it's approximately half the size of the main house.
Okay, so here, does that answer your question?
Thank you. That helps.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Race. We'll take this into committee. Anyone want to start? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I'll start. I think it's rare that we get a garden suite application that just has one variance and it's being this type of variance. Usually it's side yard setback or angular plane or height. And the fact that this doesn't touch any of those, I think, gives me reason to support it. It is a big increase in lot coverage, but I think that, as the agent said, this lot is probably on average about twice the width of the average lot on its stretch of the street. And I think that if you consider it almost like two lots, then you're pretty close to the existing permitted footprint of it. I think the design is good, and I think the location on the lot goes to minimize impacts on the neighbors to the rear and to the south, but just the absolute size of this lot, I think, makes it supportable.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Mr. Byatt.
Yeah, I agree with Peter that it's, we've only got one, and it's unusual to have a single variance before us for a laneway suite or a garden suite. My only concern is that there's a sense of massing, and I think a number of the folks in opposition have suggested the idea of this is a mansion behind an existing home, so it doesn't live up to the spirit of a garden suite. Just looking at the number of bedrooms, we've got essentially another house being built at the back of an existing house. I do have some concerns with the massing issue.
Thanks. Anyone else? Paul?
I'll add a comment.
Is your microphone on, sir?
Just low. Sorry.
Yes, you are on.
Yeah. So I think I agree with what I'm hearing. It's the scale difference between the kind of the target 60 square meters and what's proposed is kind of the challenge. It is a unique property, and it can obviously handle a larger rear addition of a garden suite. But again, I'm struggling with the sheer size of it in relationship to the definition of garden suite. So again, I welcome. It's a great use of that property to have that as an additional residential component to the community, and it's a great thought. But again, that's my challenge.
Okay, Doug?
Yeah, I suppose my thought is I was somewhat persuaded by what the agent was saying about the other sort of metrics about how the property fits in to the setbacks and angular planes and all of that. But still, it has me wondering why the city chose a specific, or why the bylaw expresses a specific number that's not a percentage, that's not it seems like the intent of this bylaw was to set a maximum size, and it is quite a bit over that maximum size. But I mean, that's where I'm struggling as well, I suppose, with the size. But in terms of the impact, I didn't hear a lot of negative adverse impact from folks about how this will actually play out when it's constructed, given where it is located on the land. So I'm a bit on the fence.
Can I indulge the committee and just go out of committee to ask the agent one question, if you don't mind? Mr. Race, the coverage that you're seeking, it's a two-story, but you also have a basement. Does the coverage include the basement in the calculation, or is it just the first and second story? Is he there? I'm sorry.
Sorry, sir, I was just unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, it does include that. Yes, sir.
Sorry, so the coverage includes the basement, first floor, and second floor levels?
Yes, it includes all aspects of the building.
Okay, so the coverage includes the basement. All right. Thank you. Back into committee.
Thank you.
I'll just weigh in. I agree with Peter on this one. It is very rare that we see an application that has a single variance, and there is no width, there is no length, there is no height variance, and I think that speaks to the design. I was struck by the setbacks on the second story. There's a green roof, and the second story is set back, I think, fairly significantly from the two sides. It is a green roof, which is a desirable application. I would agree that this lot, notwithstanding, I think, the concerns from neighbors, mostly about precedent, but I think this is an unusually large and deep lot that can quite adequately handle this. And I do note that the rear of the yard is very heavily treed, so it does kind of screen this from some of the folks. So I think it's supportable. So I'll look to someone for a motion. Peter?
Let's see where this goes. For the reasons I mentioned before, I think this is a supportable application, so I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2.
And through the chair with the amended purpose.
Amended purpose.
Thank you, with the amended purpose.
I have a seconder. Mr. Wilkins. Okay, all in favor? Okay. Those opposed? Mr. Byatt dissents. So that application is approved with those conditions. Thank you. Amended application, pardon me. All right, we move on to item number 5. This is 14 Holmesdale Road. This is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling, which is a 4-plex with a covered front porch, second and third floor rear balconies, rear access stairs for each unit, and a rear basement walkout with a patio. The dwelling will have a total of 4 residential units, and the existing 1-story detached dwelling will be demolished. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 8 photographs of the subject property, and presentation materials from the agent. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry and Transportation Services. And do we have the agent with us?
Through the chair, we do have the agent on the line, and I note there are no registered speakers for this item.
Great. Ms. Evangelista.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista, 53 Bentworth Avenue, Toronto, on behalf of the owners of 14 Holmesdale.
Thanks, Ida. I note that we don't have anyone in opposition, but this is a kind of a complicated application. I wonder if we could get a quick overview.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So what we are proposing is we're proposing a multiplex. I have submitted some materials for you just to let you know. This is right in the center of town, off of Dufferin, between Eglinton and Rogers Road. It's a 10 to 12-minute walk to the new Fairbank LRT and a 6-minute TTC ride from Dufferin to the new subway. And what we're proposing here is a 4-plex. We are asking for a height of 11.49 meters. We're asking to, and that is to the top of the parapet. And that's at the front of the house. However, due to the topography of the land, at the rear, our height is approximately 9.49 to the rear, the top of the building. My apologies, 9.42. So transportation is in agreement. They have no comments relating to the application. They have asked that if should we in future wish to put in front yard parking, then we are to apply, and we're okay with the condition. And forestry are asking for condition number 3, which we are also amenable to. So we are asking for a side yard setback of 0.61. However, if you notice on the west side, we are increasing it. It's currently 0.26, and we are increasing it to 0.61. We do not have a setback on the east side, and I respectfully submit that The increase that we are asking, it does allow for accessibility, light and maintenance to the building. And we are asking, the front porch is encroaching. We do have a front yard setback, and that's just to align with the neighboring properties on both the east and west side. We are proposing, as you know, OBC requires a second point of egress, which we're proposing at the back, and we do have our balcony, but as you note, we do not have any variances relating to balconies. You'll see that the neighboring properties, it's an eclectic area. We have bungalows, we have 3 stories, we have 4 stories. As a matter of fact, number 53 just proposed a 4-story, and they received approval for a height of 11.71 meters with a main wall height of 9.34. And we have number 25 that has proposed the same with a height of 11.34. So in closing, the area is undergoing regeneration. We're close to TTC. We have the new LRT just down the street. I respectfully submit that you'll see from the photos, 56, 62 Holmesdale, 72, 70 Holmesdale. We also have right at the corner Durham Hughes. There's several 3 stories and also 4 Holmesdale. And then also it fits harmoniously, and I've also included some other photos of other sizes of homes, and you'll see that it does fit the character of the area. What we are proposing will not destabilize the area and allows for continued evolution of this neighborhood. There is reinvestment in this area that respects the planned context and existing built form, and what we are proposing is desirable and appropriate for the use of these lands, and it's consistent with the OP and the ZBL. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Severe?
Thank you. Just a couple of quick ones. I noticed on the proposed site plan that you've got a driveway that is going to be redone. Is that going to be permeable? And on the east side, I think it's on the east side rear, the balconies that you've got, is there any overlook on the east side? I noticed on the west side, I think you've got a privacy screen identified, but it's only on the 3rd floor. But there's a staircase at the rear. But I'm just wondering on the east side, there might be some overlook issues. Could you just comment on those 2 things?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do have privacy screening, which allows some privacy on these, but we are open and amenable to have a 1.5 meter privacy screening on both sides, if that, and just to prevent overlook and onlook. So we are amenable to proposing that. And are there any other questions?
It just with regard to the
and at the front, well, it's going to be all grassed area. We do have an entry point at the front, and that's just the walkway to the door, and then everything else will be landscaped.
Sorry, did I not notice a driveway?
It's.
Or is it just a walkway?
No, it is a walkway. It is a walkway.
Okay, no, that's good. There's no garage there, so that's fine. So the rear balconies, is it the 2nd and 3rd floors that may require privacy screening, and is it on the east side? Would that be correct?
East and west. East and west.
East and west. I think the west side is staircase as well, so she's got,
So it doesn't need it on the west?
it may not be, she's got it identified as.
Maybe, Ida, the question is, for the second and third floor balconies, do you need privacy screening on both the east and the west?
Hello?
Hello? Have we lost her?
Hello?
Hello?
Ida, can you hear us?
Hello?
I think we've lost the agent. Hang on a sec if you can hear us. I guess not. We're just doing a technical adjustment here.
Maybe while we're, sorry, while we're
Hello? Hello?
Ida, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Is showing
Can you hear me?
screening.
Yeah, I lost everyone there for a while.
Okay. You can hear us now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, the member was asking about privacy screening on the second and third floor, whether it is both sides or one side.
As the plans currently show, it is one side. However, we are open to having it on both sides.
Okay, is that?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any further questions? Okay, if not, let's take this into committee. Look for a motion. Is it here?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move motion to approve this application. I think it's in keeping with the gentle increase in density that we're looking at. And as Ms. Evangelista pointed out, just up the road, the new Eglinton Transit will be quite easily accessible. There are two, so the conditions that we would attach to this particular application. So I'd like to move forward with the approval of this application with forestry number 3, I believe, transportation condition, and privacy screening on east and west sides and the second and third floor balconies at the rear.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bryant. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to, does anyone need a break? You want a 5 or 10 minute break? Does anyone need a short break? You're okay? You're okay? Everyone okay, staff? Okay, let's continue. Item number 6, 133 Roncesvalles Avenue. The purpose is to alter the existing 3-story mixed-use building containing ground floor commercial space and 2 residential dwelling units in the second and third levels by constructing a rear 3-story addition with a mezzanine level above the 3rd story and a rear ground floor pedestrian access. The altered building will maintain commercial space on the ground floor and will provide a total of 6 residential units on the 2nd and 3rd levels. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, an arborist report, presentation materials from the agent, and a rental housing demolition and conversion form. We have reports from Heritage Services, Transportation Services, and 2 from Transportation Services, and a staff report from Urban Forestry. We have opposition correspondence from 160, 143, 158, 129, 156, 154 Galley Avenue, 135 and 127 Roncesvalles, and 115 and 155 Galley. We have materials in opposition from 160 Galley Avenue received on March 13th and again on April the 8th. Do we have the agent?
Through the chair, we have the agent on the line, and we have a number of registered speakers in opposition for this item.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Wong.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Can you hear me?
We can. If you can have your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Chris Wong from 138 McGregor Street, Toronto, Ontario, M6H3S3. I'm the agent for the property of 133 Roncesvalles Avenue.
Great. Well, we have a number of people lined up to speak on this one, so we'll need a presentation.
Sure. If you can please pull up the presentation material, please. So we can probably skip to the next page. So currently 133 Roncesvalles is a 3-story commercial property with retail on grade and 2-story residential units above. There's a 1-story addition at the back with a current setback of 9 meters. There's no vehicular lane at the back, but a 1 meter pedestrian right of way. By the way, this is existing the right of way. It's not something we added. We're proposing a 3-story addition at the back with mezzanine on the 3rd floor. The ground floor will be used as a commercial office. The addition will have a setback of 7.5 meters from the rear property line. Next, please. We believe our proposal is in line with the overall urban form within the neighborhood, as shown on page 3 of the presentation material. There are currently other existing buildings of similar height, scale, and nature in the same city block with less setback than ours, and I'll speak about that setback more into detail in a moment. Currently, this property is perpendicularly abutting to the residential lot. We can go to page 4. But our additions will only face the backyard and not directly to the building face. Next, please. The proposed ground floor and the basement will be used by the owner as their own office. Sorry, next page, please. As highlighted in purple. And while the 2nd and 3rd floor will be residential units, we are proposing a 4 1-bedroom units and 2 studio units highlighted in green and blue to replace the existing 2 3-bedroom units. These will be all purpose-built rental units aiming to supply the much-needed rental market in the city. Access for these units are all from Roncesvalles Avenue, and the stair that leads to the back is only for egress and not intended for tenants' everyday use to minimize any pedestrian traffic at the back. There'll be panic doors that cannot be opened from the outside. Also, the owner is committed only to rent to people that do not own cars and will probably be TTC users. And also in their office, no one drives. So we don't intend to add any additional parking load to the neighborhood. Next, please. Currently, we are seeking 4 variances. First 2 are related to parking, provisions of visitor parking and wheelchair accessible parking. The 3rd one is about the 45-degree angular plane, and the 4th one is about the rear setback, 7.5 meters instead of 12. Next, please. As you can see from the survey on page 7, there's no vehicular back lane access, so there's only a 1 meter pedestrian right of way. So currently no cars can physically access our site, and hence we cannot provide any parking spots. We don't think it would be appropriate to the streetscape to provide any parking coming in from Roncesvalles. Next, please. Regarding the angular plane and the setback, there are currently a number of existing buildings in this neighborhood that are also not conforming to this. Shown on the map here. In the same block, there are a number of properties that are also abutting to the residential lot and do not provide the 12-meter required setback. In fact, all of them has a less setback that we're providing. For example, 127 Roncesvalles only has a 1 meter right of way as a setback. 137 Roncesvalles is almost 100% built out to the regular lot. 125 Roncesvalles only provides approximately 2.5 to 3 meter setback. Same as 145 and 177. In terms of the angular plane, there are also presence in the vicinity. Once again, 127 Roncesvalles is a 3-story building that is straight up from grade, and 145 Roncesvalles, next page, please, also does not provide any angular setback from 7.5 meters up. Lastly, we also want to indicate that we sorry, next page, please. Lastly, and the one after, please. Lastly, we also want to indicate that we intend to respect the heritage characteristic of the existing building that make up the unique streetscape of Roncesvalles neighborhood. Hence, we intend to keep the front facade as close to original as possible, except new glazing and some bay window upgrade, as the building is currently having moisture and thermal insulation issues. And at the end, we believe this our proposal is in line with the overall urban form of the neighborhood, and seeking approval for this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Panel, any questions? I have if you don't mind, I have a quick question. I just want to clarify, there's a lot of concerns from people about the right-of-way
yes.
off Galley Avenue, which I presume is going to be a major point of entrance for your proposal. Is it?
No, not at all. We intend everybody to come in from Roncesvalles. The right-of-way is just a right-of-way.
Okay, that's helpful, because I was just looking at the survey. There was some concern about residents using that right-of-way to...
No, we do not intend that. Like, we obviously, as a apartment building, we need to provide 2 egress. So in a case of emergency, they would need to...
So this is just emergency then?
But day-to-day, not at all.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, if we can have our first speaker.
Through the chair, we'll start with the speaker here in person. Brendan Thomas, if you could please come up to the mic.
Mic check.
Good morning.
Good morning, Committee of Adjustment panel members. Brendan Thomas, 160 Galley Avenue, right next to the proposal in question. And since I only have 5 minutes, I put a materials in opposition about 2 days ago. If you can pull up that presentation so I can speak off of that with the pictures. Great, yeah. So the first slide there, my main concerns and objections are with the first 2 variances. The first one having the depth of the pedestrian access 7.5 meters. I believe 10.5 would be minor, but 7.5 is major. Another thing to note is that you must eliminate 4 trees, mature trees, to get to 7.5 meters, where if you just respect that bylaw, the trees can definitely stay. It also brings the depth of that building very close to my backyard. And the main one that I have issue with is the angular plane. That building is right next to my backyard as well as adjacent neighbors. And we'll see in coming pictures that the angular plane will ensure no privacy for my backyard as well as neighbors and no sunlight. Next slide, please. What we have there on the left is my view of the back of 133 Roncesvalles Avenue. As you can see, it's way back in the lot. You have 4 beautiful mature trees that bloom in the spring and the summer, provide privacy, and there's privacy screening there. No angular planes are being penetrated, and the building is way back. On the right, you're bringing that structure very far forward, eliminating 4 trees and going up at a 90-degree angle, penetrating that angular plane. Of course, they put the largest windows on the 3rd floor, and as we'll see in the next pictures, my backyard will be like a fish in an aquarium. Next slide, please. Just the proposal, the architect, the 45-degree angular plane. I don't see a reason why they can't respect that, eliminate that variance, go inwards, maybe put a privacy fence on the 3rd floor. At least that's one less variance to worry about. And that's just a picture from on top of my roof. You can see the lot, 4 beautiful trees there, and the fact that the property to the right has privacy fences there. Next slide, please. This represents the impact. This is taken from next door on their fire escape. So you can imagine, a bit more centered, 3 stories up, no privacy fence, no angular plane. They're going to be looking straight down into my backyard, as well as the other neighbors who also have objection letters in today. And of course, don't think I'll see sunlight ever, and forget about growing any plants there after this is built. So that's just the impact of what it'll look like, but add another 2 stories to that. Next slide, please. And just in the left, you can see the proposal there, the bulk of the building, and that little laneway crevice. Those are all backyards to the right of that. And the point I made is that if they can build that far out, not respect the angular plane, the properties to the left and the right may want to do that, which can create a walled city. And as we noted, that right-of-way is only 3 feet long, or 3 feet wide. So you can imagine a huge walled city there using a 3-foot wide laneway. And I know the developer said that it's not meant, as an entrance, but who's to say they won't use that 24/7 for Uber Eats and anything else going in and out of a 3-foot wide laneway. And just the picture to the right, you can just see the mature trees there, the fact that they still could build. So I'm not against them building. It's just please respect the angular plane and bring it back a bit. Please save 1 or 2 trees. Give my family in our backyard a bit of privacy as we currently have now and a bit of sunlight. Next slide, please. And that's just a refusal from March 20th. I sat here in person. I know we were adjourned till today, but it's just it's just an example. I know we can't play the YouTube video, but it was a similar property refused solely on the 45-degree angular plane. So just to summarize, I feel they can still build something. Please respect the 45-degree angular plane and my backyard, my family's right to privacy, sunlight, and save 1 or 2 trees, put it back a bit, maybe 10-meter depth as opposed to 7.5 meters. Any questions to myself? Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions here?
Just one quick question. How long have you lived in the home that you're currently occupying?
About 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've tried to contact the speakers in opposition from 158 Galley Avenue as well as 135 Roncesvalles Avenue and was unsuccessful.
I have them right here. They're texting me. They can't get through WebEx.
Can we give them a call?
I have his number here if you need it. Hey, they're trying to phone you. Are you able to pick up this number? Okay. Okay, I'll hang up and they can try to phone you.
Hi, Joseph. You've been unmuted.
Good morning.
Hello? Good morning.
You could give us your name and address, please.
My name is Joseph Galt, and I live at 158 Galley Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
I listened to everything Brendan had to say, and I think he said it quite well. I reinforce all the issues that he has because we have some similar issues. The back of our property is a brick wall. We have construction going on to the east of us, and when this building goes in, it will sort of close us in like a cement box. And I think what happens back there is the sound reverberates, and also the trees act as a buffer from visual point of view and from a noise point of view. So I agree with Brendan that the trees, it's important to leave the trees, and I also think the issue about the angle of the top of the building is actually very important to me. I've lived in the house for 35 years, and I've seen a lot of bad mistakes happen in my neighborhood, and slowly, it's affecting the people that live on the street. There's construction up and down the street. They are presently putting in a bike trail, and they're going to put a light at the end of our street. We have two very popular churches in the neighborhood, and the parking has been restricted terribly over time. So the congestion with another 6 units having access to this laneway just makes no sense to me. If it's 133 Roncesvalles, then the exit and the entrance should be on Roncesvalles, and none of the garbage should be pushed out in front of Brendan's place and my place. We're directly in the line of fire here. Benna's, the local bakery, uses this alleyway, and the two restaurants use this alleyway, and they are constantly doing deliveries, sometimes 3 and 4 times a week for each shop, plus 6 units in the back there. This is supposed to be a fire route, and it's turning into a major laneway. So there are 3 issues. The main one is that the variance needs to be enforced, and I believe that I agree with Brendan. The trees, I'd rather live in the shadow of the shade of a tree than the shadow of a building, and I think that that's going to be the problem. But the biggest issue we have is take the building back a little bit, leave the trees, and allow us to have a little privacy in our backyard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have one further speaker?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the third speaker in opposition cannot attend.
Okay. It's great. If we could have Mr. Wong back.
And through the chair, just for the record, the
Pardon?
third speaker that cannot attend is at 135 Roncesvalles Avenue.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm back.
Hi, if you can respond to what we've heard today.
Sure, of course. I want to address, first of all, in terms of the sunlight issue. I hear what the neighborhood is talking about, but I also want to point out that our site is on the west side of their property. So other than that very, very late in the afternoon, we might create a bit more shadows. For the most part of the day, the shadow has not come from us. And secondly, they talk about this potential wall city. You know, that's not. I mean, I can't really predict what other people will produce and propose in the future. In terms of the parking, as we delivered earlier in the presentations, the clients is committed to renting to people not having cars, and there's no one drives in their office, and they're firm believer of GDC user. So we don't have any additional load to the parking. As it currently stands, you know, there's a 2 or 3 bedroom units in there, so which are all they are kind of a bit like a rooming house originally. So if there's any load on the existing parking, we're not adding anything further. As a matter of fact, we're reducing it. Lastly, in terms of the backlaned garbage, the owner is using the ground floor, and they are the one that will be maintaining this building. And so any deliveries would definitely be coming from the front door facing Roncesvalles. No one's is using the back lane, as I was pointing out earlier. And also in terms of the garbage, you know, there might be some movements with using the back lane to take the garbage out, but the owner is also open to moving the garbage through their own space to the front of Roncesvalles, if that is what makes good neighbors.
Okay.
And lastly, in terms of the tabernacular plane, as I said in the presentation, there are a number of precedents that are already happening in the site. We are in line with the similar urban form of the same city block. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Is it here?
Just one, perhaps. Just a very quick one.
I'm sorry. I forgot to address the tree. Can I talk about that again? I'm so sorry.
Yes, please do.
Yes, in terms of the trees, we understand that this is this presents some issues to the neighborhood. We've spoken with the clients before, and the clients are amenable to revise the design a bit and keep 2 trees at the back. Currently, there's something called yard they want to build to bring light to the basement level, which they're going to use. But if that's what helps in terms of the neighbors, we are willing to keep tree number 3 and 4 and forego the sunken courtyard just to be good neighbors. Thank you.
So you're still proposing to either remove or injure 1 and 2?
Correct.
Okay. Is it here?
Actually, that question was related to that because the gentleman who was in opposition did mention the trees in the photograph that he presented. There are 3 trees in line, and I take it the one closest to the proposed new structure would be removed, but the other 2 would remain?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Call up the tree protection plans here. It's actually listed.
That's listed, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're in committee. So here?
Maybe I'll just start off with some comments. I think one of the big challenges, and it's a dilemma for homeowners that live very close to main roads such as this, and homes that are within perhaps 100 meters from on either side, always face the potential of businesses along these main roads expanding either back or up. And I think this is one, and that was the reason I asked the gentleman about when he purchased this home, because I think that's one of the difficulties always. As a project itself, I do not see any major issues with it. The requested variances 1 and 2, they don't seem to be problematic. The angular plane may, to some degree, be a problem. And I think variance number 4, there was an explanation about the use of the pedestrian access primarily for emergency purposes. So when one looks at the variances, they are not problematic as such. I think it's a supportable application. So I'd like to hear what my colleagues would have to say.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Peter?
Sure. I agree with Sahir. I think this is something that we often see, Main Street buildings extending to the back and then impacting neighbors. My main concern was the 45-degree angular plane, I think. But I think the immediate context does have a significant amount of buildings that go further than this one, especially I guess what was a theater before, going way back into the mid-block, and that has a 3-story portion. So I don't think that what's being proposed here is really out of line with the established built form along the rear side of Roncesvalles on that side. I do think that there's a benefit to this project, and that it's nice to see an active use of the basement for the commercial use, and then additional units on Roncesvalles. I was glad to hear that all units do have principal access and egress from the main street, not from the alleyway to the right of way to the side. I think this is a bit of growing pains for the neighborhood, but I do think this is a supportable application.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll look for a motion. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. For the reasons discussed, I move approval of the application, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Can I just suggest a friendly amendment, if you're open to it? Just the tree protection plan. I'd like to maybe put a condition in to hold the agent to the word that they would preserve 3 and 4. You okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's good. So maybe that would be, I guess, urban forestry condition 2?
It would still apply to, it would still apply to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But they want to preserve 3 and 4, so maybe we could build that in.
Yeah. Is that something that works from staff perspective?
Through the chair, so your condition would be to preserve tree 3 and 4 as indicated on the tree protection plan.
Yeah. I think the agent indicated that that was, I think that might make the neighbor a little bit less upset. Okay? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that does make sense. I think that would go to soften it. My only concern is just the wording of how to get, because there may be a chance that they may not be savable, depending on urban forestry's opinion, right?
Through the chair, urban forestry's process would trump a condition. So, I mean, it's still subject to urban forestry, number 2, first and foremost.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I like that.
Zahir, are you seconding that? Okay, we have a motion to approve with that condition by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Wilkins is dissents. Okay, that application is approved. All right, we move on to item number 7. 47 PLAYTER Boulevard. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story dwelling by constructing a side third-story dormer, a rear ground floor deck, and a rear third-story deck. This committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received March 5th, 2 photographs of the subject property, and a cover letter from the agent. We have a report from community planning. All right. Do we have the agent with us?
Through the chair, we do have the agent on the line, and I note there are no registered speakers for this item.
Okay.
Good morning, members of the committee.
Good morning. If you could have your name and address, please.
I'm Lynn Houston. I am at 49 Oak Crest Avenue, and I'm the agent for the homeowners.
Thank you. Just hang on a sec, Lynn. Panel, do you want a presentation for this one?
No.
Does anyone want a presentation? Okay, Ms. Houston, we've read all the material. We've read the information with respect to the application. We're comfortable with what we've read. We don't need a presentation. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we go into committee?
No, I don't think that's necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're in committee. I'll look for someone for, this looks fairly minor. I think I'll look to someone for a motion. I'm going to go with Mr. Gogan here.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for this.
Is your mic on? Yep.
It's on. Yeah, it is minor nature, and again, it's showing kind of investment in the property and making improvements for the general, just general upkeep and keeping of the character of the neighborhood. So I recommend we approve this variance.
Subject to planning condition?
And subject to planning staff report where they had some reference drawings.
And it's for screening?
For screening.
Yep. Correct. Okay. We have a motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Okay, your application is approved. Thank you. All right, we move on to item number 8, 93 MACKAY Ave. This is an application to alter the existing 1-story ancillary building by constructing a complete 2nd-story addition for the purposes of constructing 1 laneway suite. The existing parking space will be maintained. Committee has before it a copy of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. A revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received March 11th. A red line public notice from the agent received March 19th. An arborist report and presentation materials from the agent. We have email correspondence from Transportation Services and staff reports from Urban Forestry and Community Planning. Do we have the agent with us?
Through the chair, we do have the agent on the line, and I note there's no registered speakers for this item. However, I will point out that the notice that went out to the public was not the notice that you members had in your agenda. So staff will put the correct public hearing notice on the screen, which was sent out to the public. And if we could just have the agent explain if they are amending any of these variances on the screen as per the public hearing notice, or if this is what they are seeking. And if they are making an amendment, to please identify which variances they are changing.
Absolutely. Hi, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is Miriam Azimi from Permit First, located at 9000 Jane Street. I would like to go through the presentation because on the same day as I submitted the presentation and revised drawings, I submitted the public notice with red linings that has not been reflected on this public notice, but I will stick to the presentation that indicates the items that we have eliminated from the variances.
Through the chair to the agent, if you could please go through those variances as per the public notice that was sent out, because that is what the committee will have before them. So if you could please just ensure, we'll have it on the screen. If you could please go through those variances as per the public notice that was sent out.
Absolutely. So item number 1, which requires us to provide a minimum of 60% between the rear main wall and the ancillary building soft landscaped area. We would like to comply with this bylaw and provide the 60%.
So just to be clear, you're removing that variance. You're removing variance 1?
Completely.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Item number 2, we would have to request relief of bylaw of this variance due to the existing garage that we are planning to maintain.
Okay.
Item number 3, which is the ancillary building containing 11th Street must be no less than 7.5 meter from a residential building on the same lot.
Well, that's not, so we have variance number 3 as the exterior stairs providing pedestrian access?
So that was the previous notice, and it has been updated.
So through the
I should
chair.
be looking at the revised or the red line noticed?
Through the chair, you can look at the email that I sent yesterday that contains the public hearing notice. It's also on the screen, so staff have it up on the screen.
Okay, I'll just look at that one.
And that's the one the agent is going to go through because that's what was sent to the public.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. I'm back on track. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chair, this is one of the main reasons why we received this staff report, and we amended to the point that we wanted to be as close to what has been already approved as possible. So we increased the distance between the main building and the ancillary building to 5.82 meters.
Okay.
Yeah, and the next variance that we have also amended, we go through item number 4, which is the angular plane. And since we know that this has an importance to the planning department as well as the members of the community. So we have revised to apply the angular plane and incorporate it into the design. So as you could see in the drawings, we have incorporated that into the design.
So are you're removing this variance then?
Yes.
Okay.
Item number 5 is the maximum permitted height for the ancillary building. We originally proposed 6.17 meter, but we have reduced it down to 5.84 meters, as it's indicated on the drawings.
Okay.
And then last variance is regarding the 2 bicycle parking spaces that we have provided at the front yard, which is on the north side of this building. And I wanted to add that the reason why we could not come to an agreement with the planning department is that Madame Liliane da Silva could only support this application if we do not propose any second floor addition as ancillary building and move the entire proposal to the garage. But because the purpose of building this ancillary building is to relocate the parents of my client, and they would be the future tenants and residents in this ancillary building, we wanted to make sure that they have all the means of convenience and be able to park their vehicle. As they're aging, I don't believe it's convenient for them to travel all the way and find a parking spot on the street, which is not even possible at this point. It's a very crowded area. So the whole point of coming to this meeting is to seek your approvals for this proposal. And if you were going to follow the planning department's suggestions, we would have to completely remove the second floor addition and convert the garage, which defeats the whole purpose of this application for us, and that's not what we are looking for.
Through the chair to the agent, so just for the public record, you're removing variance number 6?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So can we just recap? They're removing 1, is it 4? And 6. Okay. All right, so just a question. So the changes that you are making in the variances, are they reflected in the revised material that was submitted on March the 11th?
Yes.
So elevations and such are all in keeping with your proposed revisions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Panel, any questions? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. To the agent, just commenting, I note in your materials that there is an existing recently built laneway suite next door. So is your massing, I know you have the kind of cut angle at the front side, but is the remainder similar in terms of the massing to the laneway suite adjacent?
Yes, it's similar to the adjacent building. As a matter of fact, we are the existing garage is basically within the same depth of the next door neighbor. The only reason we have variances involved in regards to depth is because the main building. There's an addition at the rear end that basically reduces the distance between the two buildings. But again, this laneway suite is within the same footprint as the next door neighbor's laneway suite.
Okay, great. Okay, I see the measurement is from the smaller addition in the back, not from the main wall of the rear, at the rear of the house.
Correct.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to add one thing that our next door neighbor, 93 Mackay, the property owner of the same laneway suite next door, he was in support of us in the previous meeting, but unfortunately we didn't get to have a chance to present. So I just wanted to let you know that we have his full approval of this proposal.
Okay, so just let's go back to the planning staff report. So they were concerned about separation distance.
Yeah.
Correct.
So have you changed any of that, or you've adjusted the angular plane?
Yes, angular plane and the distance. We increased the distance.
Okay. All right, great. Any further questions? Okay, we'll take this into committee. Anyone have some observations? Peter?
Sure, I'll make a couple comments. I think with these changes being proposed, that goes a long way to making this a more palatable application. It is nice to see the existing tree being accommodated, and I think the fact that this is a very similar situation to what's immediately next door, I think that's helpful. The separation distance, I mentioned it, but I think the fact that it's limited to this 5.8 meter part is from a smaller addition to the back, and it's not the full kind of main wall, rear main wall of the house. I think that lessens the impact of that. I think there's been some good faith efforts to make this a reasonable application, so I'll support it.
Okay. Anyone else? Zahir?
Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to make sure that I heard correctly that the concerns that the planning department, staffing report had have been met.
I think it doesn't completely comply, like they haven't removed that, but they've improved it.
Improved it. So I think given that there is an improvement and there have been some amendments made, it's somewhat more palatable application for sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll look for a motion. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Based on the reasons I mentioned before, I'd like to move approval of the amended application. That's with variances 1, 4, and 6 deleted, variance 2 remaining, and then variance 3 and 5 amended, subject to urban forestry condition.
Great. Motion to approve. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Wilkins, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. In a rare situation, we are on our last item. We move on to item number 9, 41 Hook Avenue. And this is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition to replace the existing rear story addition, 1-story addition, and a rear ground floor deck. Panel has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of the subject property, an advisory report from Metrolinx, and a 5 signature petition in support for the application from various residents on Hook Avenue. Do we have the agent?
Vinny,
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Vinny Losão. I'm the owner's agent for the requested minor variances.
Great. Hang on a second. We have a speaker. Is that registered in support or opposition?
Through the chair, it looks like we just have an agent registered by the name of Sava, and then Vinny, who just indicated they're the owner.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so Sava was a previous speaker because I was on vacation, but I'm the actual applicant. Now that I'm back, I took over again.
And who's Vinny?
I am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so no registered speakers to this item. We just have the agent.
Okay, hang on a second. Panel, it's a fairly straightforward application. Does anyone need a presentation?
No,
thanks. Well, Vinny, the good news is the panel doesn't need a presentation today. We've read all the material and we're comfortable with the material we have before us. Before we take it into committee for a decision, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for asking.
Okay, we're in committee. Panel? Who wants this one? Mr. Wilkins.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve. I believe the Metrolinx condition is more advisory.
Is it a condition or advisory? Just advisory.
Right, so I just make a motion to approve as is. I think it's obviously very minor. It's not really changing too much from what's there.
Okay, motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? That's approved. You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned at 12:10-ish.
12:07 to 12:10.
Okay, 12:07. Thank you all.
members. Thank you,
all.
staff. Everyone, please turn off your microphones and video. Thank you.